Hello YouTube viewers, Unrested here, and today we're gonna have the Youkai Halloween special. Today we'll be talking about yokai and yurei and obake and bakemono all throughout Japan. It'll be full of illustrations, mythology, and the stories behind the monsters you'll see today. Today's collab was done by me, Unrested, Scott Ackerman, illustrating half of what you'll see, and the other half done by the Olden Youth, who has a very different style from me, possibly even more spooky. So sit back, enjoy, and relax.
Fierce, dangerous, and clever, Tengu are some of Japan's most recognized, respected, revered, and feared of all yokai. These winged warrior spirits patrol the skies and mountainous regions of Japan, observing the petty world of mortals from high above, as if mankind was some form of entertainment. With strong wings, Tengu can generate typhoon-like winds. With otherworldly powers at hand, they are experts at sorcery and illusion. What makes a Tengu utterly dangerous is that this yokai is armed with killer cunning. The Tengu's wits is just as sharp as its claws. Tengu are successful at outsmarting rivals, and before the rival could even retaliate, the rival would get a nasty surprise from one of these aerial spirits. Tengu are often arrogant in their personality and take pride in their status as spirits and deities of the skies and mountains. Anyone who mocks or insults a Tengu will surely arouse the spirit's wrath. And keep in mind that a Tengu's fury is just as wild as that of a typhoon. Anyone who wrongs a Tengu will suffer from dire consequences, such as being abducted by them, getting lifted high up in the air, before being dropped off at an unknown foreign location, or even in the middle of a big city, stripped naked, going mad in the process. If that's not enough, Tengu would possess humans, breaking their sanity from within and corrupting the human mind to oblivion. But getting insane or being kidnapped and dropped off naked in the middle of downtown is the least of one's worries. There are other dirty tricks the Tengu hides within its wings and wits. Point is, if you disrespect it, it is best to apologize quick. Otherwise, it'll carry your ass, lift you up high in the sky before dropping you dead down to earth with your brains and skull splattered all over. It can be seen that the Tengu are the gangster versions of Japan's supernatural world. Indeed, the Tengu is also famous for another trait. That would be the deadly mastery of the martial arts. And being masters of combat, these aerial yokai are also well known for being teachers to Japan's would-be warriors. Tengu are also known for kidnapping children and harassing young Buddhist monks. But not all of the kidnappings end up in a gruesome result. Some of Japan's legendary warriors and finest swordsmen claim to have been raised and taught by Tengus. And these warriors were the very same children who were kidnapped by these entities during their early childhood years. The origins of the Tengu are shrouded in mystery still. Some scholars believe that they were the original inhabitants of Japan, while some academics speculate that the Tengu had Chinese and Vedic roots. Some people even believe that the Tengu used to be powerful birds of prey that soon evolved into deities in the afterlife. Whatever the origins, the Tengu has a close relationship with Shinto and other indigenous belief systems of Japan, and the Tengu even represents them. Because of this, Tengu harbored intense grudges against Buddhism and monks in the past. Tengu would cause mischief to those following the ancient Indian philosophy, but over the years the Tengu have gradually come to good terms with Buddhism, as some Tengu even ended up protecting and even exchanging knowledge with Buddhist monks. It could be noted that the Tengu is a fierce protector of the land of Japan. And indeed, the Tengu calls Japan's forests and mountains home, thus guarding its homeland to the maximum. It is interesting that the Tengu can be a wicked and sinister trickster on one hand, yet on the other hand, the Tengu would also become a wise and revered master. This shows us that even yokai have complex, advanced personalities just like mortal humans have. And not all supernatural entities are wholly labeled black or white. This means that not all of the yokai are evil, bloodthirsty fiends, since some of the most dangerous ones, like the Tengu here, can become mighty and deeply respected noble teachers and friends. Though the Tengu is by no means an angel, the Tengu is not as repulsive as a harpy either. Though at times the Tengu can be just as deadly as a demon, the Tengu can also be as fair as a god by those who got help from these yokai.
So, our first obake, or yokai, is one of my favorite, Kuchisake Onna, literally translated, the split-mouth woman. A woman whose story varies from prefecture to prefecture. Don't attempt to write me a private message or make a comment telling me I've told it wrong for my own prefecture, as it differs with each prefecture. In some, she's in a horrible car accident that slices her mouth from ear to ear. In others, she's in a horrible chemical spill that ends up burning her mouth wide open, leaving little more to cover her gums and teeth than lifeless flesh. In others, She's attacked by a hoodlum on the street, who viciously cuts her face from ear to ear like Jack the Ripper would in Whitechapel. Nonetheless, in every story, her mouth is cut all the way to her ears. And to hide this, she wears a medical mask. You know, the mask Japanese people wear every day when they're sick. Usually for a cough, a cold, or a hay fever. But she wears it to cover up her horribly disfigured face. When she approaches a beautiful woman who she becomes jealous of, or a beautiful girl, she asks first, while the mask is on, "Do you think I'm beautiful?" Most times people are confused. How can they tell? Half of her face is covered up with a mask. They say yes, usually to be polite, or perhaps just to end the awkward conversation. When she removes the mask, her horrible visage is revealed to them. They then become horrified, and she asks once more, "Do you still think I'm beautiful?" At which point she'll grab you and slice your mouth open the same way.
When we think of monsters, we often think of deadly animals, psychopathic madmen, or demonic spirits. But none would expect such an equally dangerous, terrifying monster coming from a plant. At first glance, it looks like an ordinary harmless tree, just standing still and gentle within the landscape. Closer and closer you go, then you notice something unusual. Closer and closer you approach, and suddenly vines begin to seize you, squeeze you, lifting you up from the ground as the vines wrap around your body tightly like snakes. The tree is awakened, and it is thirsty. The vines pierce deep underneath your skin, entering your body like parasites. The vines soon morph into tiny tubes that start sucking the very blood out of you. The tree's vines drink and drink and drink till the last drop of your blood runs out, turning you into a lifeless corpse, dead and drained. With no more juice left inside you, the vines discard your body like an empty Coke can, as your corpse, your skin and your bones becomes one with the earth and one with the tree. Juboko, a vampire tree, is a rare and dangerous yokai that inhabits forests. Dangerous, for it can be mistaken for a normal tree. Dangerous, for the tree's bloodlust knows no boundary. Juboko is said to be grown in lands where wars were formerly held. According to scholars, the Juboko is born when the tree has been soaked by the blood of fallen soldiers, and when the tree develops a liking for it. Once it gets addicted to blood, the formerly normal tree evolves into this accursed predator, with deadly vines and branches that wrap upon any unwary victim that passes by, before sucking the victim's blood dry. Blood improves the tree's fresh-looking appearance, and if the tree is deprived of blood for a long time, the Juboko will wither in weakness. Blood, after all, is a primary life force, and a primary food source for some. The Jubokko's branches, however, is said to possess miraculous healing properties when cut and turned into an artifact. The branch is said to dispel toxins and cleanse diseases. But in order to get a Jubokko branch, one must be careful in doing it. For cutting a Jubokko can make the tree bleed, losing blood in the process. And when the tree loses blood and gets upset, the branches might catch, cut, and clean you dry first instead. In spite of the Jubokko's graphic legend, not many Japanese people know about this yokai. In fact, local historians believe that Jubokko doesn't have its roots in Japan at all. Scholars couldn't find any blood-sucking plant in traditional Japanese folk tales, nor records even. The only person who made the Jubokko popular to the populace is a man named Shigeru Mizuki. This is the same Mizuki that created the hit yokai comic series Ge 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 no Kitaro. Scholars speculated that Jubokko is an imaginary invention of Shigeru Mizuki, while others believe that he got the idea of a carnivorous tree from an unknown source. Mizuki, after all, doesn't specify where or how he got his yokai ideas. But interestingly, prior to becoming a comic book legend, Mizuki was a soldier stationed at Papua New Guinea during World War II. He fought battles, became a prisoner, witnessed his comrades die from injuries or diseases, caught malaria himself, and eventually got helped by the native tribes. The Papuan natives aided Mizuki's life greatly while he stayed at the country. They offered him sanctuary during his stay, while he also got to learn more of the local culture and wildlife in detail as well. Could it be that the Jubokko's legend stems itself from Mizuki's wartime experiences at the jungles full of carnage and challenges? Or did Mizuki truly encounter an actual monstrous plant deep within the jungles that inspired him to write about the Jubokko legend? Much of Papua New Guinea is still undiscovered by man, hosting flora and fauna that are still new to science. Strangely, some of the world's largest carnivorous plants are to be found in Papua New Guinea as well as Madagascar and the Amazon. And the stranger thing is, the indigenous people of these places have their own local legends of monster plants that resemble Jubokko, such as the man-eating tree of Madagascar, the Yatavea of South America, as well as the blood-sucking vine of Lake Nicaragua. Could it be that the Jubokko is a part of a family of exotic carnivorous plants? Is it even possible that Shigeru Mizuki might have revealed to us about their existence through his fiction stories indirectly? Or did any one of these exotic carnivorous plants reach the islands of Japan even, and made itself home here and became the root of all the evil plant stories? Wherever it came from, whether it is based on science or fantasy, the Jubokko is not a plant one would add to any garden. Jubokko isn't the tree of life after all. Jubokko is the tree of unlife. Most of the ghosts you see in Japan are either vengeful women with their masses of hair and fear-flavored eyes, or spirits of children, sad, grim entities who give cold death to anyone that disturbs their afterlife. Ghosts of women and children dominate Japanese legends, media, and even the mindset of the people. But there is another type of ghost, possessing a legend that cannot be ignored forevermore. This ghost may not be famous, and is at times underrated. Yet this ghost existence needs not ratings. And before people can even rate or criticize our next yokai, they'd suffer from doing so. Our next yokai is a different kind of ghost, more dangerous than your typical Asian ghost. Our next ghost yokai is fueled by revenge that knows no limits. And this ghost isn't even human at all. Inugami, or dog deities, are some of Japan's most lethal variety of ghosts. Before I tell you why the Inugami is one ghost you wouldn't want to deal with, first I'll reveal you its humble but sad and horrific origins right now. You see, the Inugami wasn't always a deadly entity, as this yokai started out its existence as your ordinary pet domestic dog. They lived their lives in parallel with the humans, being fed, kept, and owned by their mortal masters. These dogs were just your normal, natural furry friends, except for the fact that the human masters aren't your normal neighbors. Nay, their masters were often twisted lunatics or perverted sorcerers, and they had twisted plans for their own pet dogs. The plan was to seize the pet dog, abuse the animal, and then burying the dog underneath the ground alive. The dog's entire body is locked beneath the earth, but the dog's head remains free, the head sticking out from the ground. The next plan was to place a bowl of food or water at a close but still untouchable distance in front of the dog, as the animal desperately tries to reach it with its own stuck head. Each desperation caused the dog to increase its desire, hunger, and craze. The dog was kept in this inhumane condition for several days or even more. And when the dog's desire was at its peak, the human master decapitated, severed, cut the dog's head from the rest of the body. The next plan was to retrieve the dog's head before placing it carefully on a shrine, where the human master chanted spells and other incantations. Spells meant to summon the dead, decapitated dog's spirit. Once the dog's spirit has been called forth, the final plan has already been made. The plan was to resurrect the dead dog, turning the once beloved pet into that of an ominous spirit. With the plan properly executed, an Inugami was born. Born to be wild and much more. The human master would often use the Inugami for wicked, inhumane purposes. The Inugami is commanded to steal riches, ruin rivals, or even shred enemies to pieces. As mentioned before, the human master would often be a sorcerer or witch, and if he or she is properly trained in the dark arts, the sorcerer has the ability to command the Inugami to possess other people as well, and control the possessed victims through the Inugami. But the legend does not end here. And listen to me carefully now. as I now tell you the real story of
Our next creature is called the Rokuroku Kubi. Rokuroku Kubi literally means the woman whose neck extends, or the pulley neck. Rokuroku Kubi are known to have their necks extend just as clay would extend when being spun on a potter's wheel. Some don't even know that they are actually demons. They fall asleep at night and awake in the morning with dreams of having seen the room that they are in from strange and impossible angles. Those that do know take to frightening mortals, usually fools, drunkards, and idiots, the most evil of which, who have broken Buddhism's strictest codes, are known to have the secret face of an oni, can transform themselves into an oni with the mouth and capabilities of sucking human blood and eating human flesh. Most consider them harmless, but the ones who have fallen into the darkest realms, tearing themselves farther away from Buddhism, are the ones who follow this dark path.
why the Inugami is truly deadly. What makes this yokai more dangerous is that it can have its own free will, thus turning against its own cruel master. And when it does, lo and behold, sweet revenge is served. With intense vengeance and hatred against its former master, accompanied with newly found unearthly powers, the Inugami begins to unleash hells upon the sorcerer or witch. The human master will not be able to control the angry Inugami this time, as he or she is now dead meat to the phantom hound's fury. If only the human treated the dog well in life, the dog would turn into a powerful guardian god in the afterlife. But since the human was of the cruel stock, vengeance bites the twisted souls in the form of an enraged yokai. This is the time where man's best friend turns into man's worst nightmare. The Namazu is one of those yokai who's not widely known to the world, yet deserves recognition quick before the world ends. Despite the Namazu's lack of global fame, this creature cannot be ignored by the world any much longer, as the Namazu is capable of shattering the world itself. The Namazu is the legendary giant catfish that dwells underneath the ocean floors of Japan. This far eastern cousin to the western leviathan is a creature so vast, so powerful, and so unpredictable that the sheer movement of its titanic body alone is enough to generate destructive earthquakes across Japan. Earthquakes are Japan's most deadly natural catastrophes, with a grim reputation amongst the people, and many throughout Japanese history have attributed earthquakes to the Namazu. This wild creature, in essence, is chaos personified. The fish's mayhem and delight at wreaking destruction is its specialty. The Namazu's raw power is too great that even the gods are involved in stopping this creature from obliterating Japan to rubble. However, even gods themselves find the Namazu a challenge that's larger than life. Fortunately, help is at hand. One of the gods, the god Kashima, is able to tame and subdue this world-sized fish. The god would place an enchanted stone or sword on top of the mighty fish's head, thus anchoring the Namazu deep down the ocean's abyss. But there are times where even the god can't put Namazu in place, as the weight and strength of the creature can tire the god. And when the god gets weakened, the Titan begins to play. The Namazu was feared in the beginning due to the catastrophes it can cause. Yet over the years up to present day, the Namazu gradually became worshipped as a deity by some Japanese as the god of disasters and global change. Namazu is also heavily featured in Japanese art and media about earthquakes and emergencies. This is one of those rare cases where fiends become deities either out of fear or simply fascination. The world of fish and marine life, after all, has fascinated the minds of many mortals throughout years, and indeed throughout cultures across the globe. Legends of other world-sized fish or sea beasts, such as the Leviathan of the West, the Taniwha of New Zealand, the killer whale of Native American traditions, and the giant taimen of Mongolian fables, all share the same traits as the Namazu. They lurk underneath the deep, capable of shaking the earth, and are difficult to be stopped, even by gods. And like the Namazu, some of the aforesaid creatures have even become deities and personifications of some of nature's most deadly events. Could the Namazu be related to other titanic sea beasts across world cultures? If so, that would make our planet look like an aquarium with big beasts underneath the waters ready to act as time bombs before disaster time. In other legends, the Namazu is depicted as a giant eel or a sea dragon instead of a giant catfish. The reason why Namazu has different forms varies upon story to story, but there's one theory of why the Namazu is often shown in the form of a giant catfish. It has been proven that catfish are some of the animal kingdom's efficient earthquake predictors. Skillful amongst the species of fish is the giant Lake Biwa catfish. This giant, though by no means as giant as the legendary fabled Namazu, is able to predict earthquakes accurately. This fish is usually a sluggish animal that lies motionless beneath the lake. Fishermen would frequently have a hard time catching these massive fish, but before earthquakes would occur, the giant catfish of Lake Biwa would suddenly become active, swimming quickly through the waters, becoming strangely fast for slow-moving fish. Fishermen would catch these giant catfish easily during this time, but later on that day, an earthquake would happen, thus making the giant Biwa catfish some of nature's advanced quake alarms. Interestingly, giant Lake Biwa catfish are also called Namazu by the locals. There's another theory mentioning that the Namazu of legend could be indeed based on actual giant catfish of Lake Biwa, exaggerating their size and taking their natural ability to sense earthquakes to supernatural levels. But whether or not the Namazu is of fact or fiction, or even both, this giant ocean yokai won't be stuck deep in the seas of obscurity any longer. It wants to get out and roam free, and when it does, all the lands of Japan, all the people, plants, animals, and even all the other yokai within will have to face the Namazu's raw power. If even the gods cannot stop this force of destruction, then that is the last time where order fades as chaos begins to play. That is the time where the world ends, and the Namazu's fun is just the beginning.
My final story is a strange one, and probably the strangest that surrounds all the mythology and folklore. Within the scary stories of beasts, demons, and ghosts that surround Japanese mythology. This is called the Cowhead Story. The Cowhead Story speaks of a group of children on a bus who were told a story by their counselor taking them to a camp. The story is known to be so horrifying that everybody who heard it died on the bus that day, and the bus itself crashed, as the driver himself also heard the story and died while operating the bus. Little is known of this story. The most I had ever learned about it was from a small book I got one time from a very unique and strange manga store. Not the type of manga you're thinking of. Very, very old manga, hokusai manga. The manga had a title known only as Kokosei no Kowai Hanashi. That means high school students' scary stories. Within this book, they theorized what the story had been that they had told the students. They had each student write a short essay and draw a short manga describing what they thought it was. Some spoke of a monster who would beg you to put his head through a wall. Once you had put your head through the wall, you would see that you could travel into his dimension, where he would then devour your face. Another one spoke of a very strange ghost that floated around their school. That ghost would cover up your eyes and say, "Guess who it is?" If you could not guess the ghost who had died in the school, the ghost of a student, she would rip out your eyes and make them her own, for she had died losing her own eyes, cruelly taunted and bullied by students at that school. Many theories surround the Cowhead Story, but no one truly knows what the beast is behind, or the ghost, or the mythology. The Cowhead Story is merely known to be so horrifying, it kills any who listen to it.
But when you cross or insult a Tengu, then that's another story to be told. Provided that you survive to hear the tale, of course.